Hi, my name is Noel Davis with Wormiculture, and today we're going to go over the first bin that I ever made. I made it in a fairly large, I think it was 27-gallon tote here, and I'm going to show you what I did as well as where I feel I kind of went wrong with it. So we're going to go over this, and then you can form your own opinions on whether this is the type of bin to make or not. All right, let's go. So here we go. This is the first bin I ever created. It had a lid with these just a couple holes in the top. That was the only ventilation I had, really. As you can tell, it's fairly wet on the top here. I've had this bin going for a while. I've never really cleaned it, but as you can see, it's pretty clean on the top. Still a lot of moisture in there. Now this is the bin itself. Now you can't tell from here probably, but actually you probably can. I have these wood blocks in here because I have another bin of the same type underneath. My idea was to make a big, huge bin that the worms could live in, and that was the idea behind this. So as you can tell, I have a lot of bedding in here still, and it's actually, I mean, the bedding is still pretty dry, but there's still worms in here. They move through here pretty well. I actually have quite a few worms in here, if you can't really tell. Let's see. And actually, I've something else that actually breaks down in the bin here. Here's a good example of something: is a corn husk. These will eventually be broken down to the point where they will just snap in half and they will be just disappear into the bin. The worms tend to like them when you first put them in, then they kind of slow down. But here we go. Let's just dig down in here a little bit so you can tell there's actually some really wet compost in the bottom here. Let's see. I don't know if you can see how well you can see that because it's but there's a lot of compost in the bottom. As you can tell, it's stuck on here. I'm gonna have to shake that off. But the worms, here you go. Here's another corn husk. See, this one actually has worms all over it. I don't know what the fiber is, but see, they've actually ground that one down pretty well. I mean, there's very little left on it. But again, more compost here. This is actually pretty good quality compost in the bottom. Now, one of the things I did differently here, and this is what I'm trying to get to the bottom here, is I actually drilled holes in the bottom of this one. This is one of the few bins that I did that has holes in the bottom. Let's see if we can see any here. And this is why I don't really dig this deep that often, but lots of worms in here. This is one of the bins that I use to kind of restock other bins that I create. Let's just see here. All right, I was going to say, I can feel them when I'm running down here, but there's a whole bunch of little holes in the bottom, right along this ridge right here. There's actually little tiny holes in there. They're supposed to drain the fluid into the bottom bin. As you can tell, this is actually fairly dry. Move this stuff around, kind of mix it up a little bit, which I do every once in a while in this bin. Now, I want to get the worms moving all through here and kind of keep them happy and big. And that way, when I move into other bins, so let's say I have a bin that I feel is kind of finished, it's filled, I can take that out, dump it all out, sort the worms, and then even sell them online or something, and then put more worms in there. So that's sort of what I use this bin for. Now let me show you here what I have for the bottom. So I'm going to try to pull this up. I haven't done this in a long time here, and I actually I put a little spigot in the front when I built it. See right here, I put a little spigot, and I've never gotten any liquid out of this bin. I think it's because it's too far down, and I think these need to be actually a little higher, these spacers. So I'm going to pull this out. Okay, this is interesting. See, I've never looked in here. As you can see, there's actually a section in the middle. It's fairly dry down there. Actually, there's almost no liquid, surprisingly. So that shows how well this drains. There's no worms in here at all. So that's really surprising too. Hold on, let me just check out this stuff in the bottom here. I'm just curious now. That's really a thick, no smell to it, but it's really a thick compost. And I don't know what this some of this stuff is that's rolled up. I mean, it's not plastic. I'm guessing it's not plastic. So I'm guessing that's stuff that just sort of dried out, fell through and dried out over time. That's it. But that's kind of interesting. It's the first time I've ever gone down in here in probably 2-3 years. And that's really all that's left in here is this stuff. So I don't know what. I'm just going to leave it in there. I'm not going to take it out right now. But I always thought that the stuff would kind of fill up and drain out this hole, and that just never happened really. So it's just sort of for future use for anybody else, this is actually a good way to kind of have your bin drain. This one's a little bit drier than my other bins, and it actually is pretty well. So I'm wondering if this allows some air circulation to get in here so it doesn't dry out as much. So, but there we go. So that's my first bin that I ever created here. Now I don't recommend this as a starter bin. It's a little bit too big. I'm going to put this back together now. It's a little too big though. I found that the worms that I first put in here, they all died. And there's two reasons for that. One, the first thing they all did was they actually climbed up to get out of the bin and went into these handles that were here that I covered with tape. And they went into these handles and they would all ball up in here, and they wouldn't eat anything or touch anything in the bin. So the bin wasn't being touched. They were all in here and I had to scoop them back in. And then I put a light on for like a few weeks and I thought it was good. I took it off and boop, they all crawled out and died. So I don't know what was wrong with it when I first built my bin, or if it was the worms or what, but this did not work very well. And after that, I switched to the flow-through bin that I showed you in a prior week, which was made out of a 35-gallon trash bin. So that's how this kind of worked. But then I went back to this later, and it seems to be working really well now. And I've actually had a really good luck with this bin as far as keeping a large quantity of food in it, large quantity of bedding, and just having things rotate through. As I said, I never cut any liquid out of it, so you don't even need the spout, which was a few extra dollars. But it looks like just a couple holes in the top. And with this type of lid, I had originally planned on putting some sort of mesh over the top to keep fruit flies from going in these holes, but eventually I just realized they were never in there, so I just left it. So I have to say, this has been a pretty good bin. It's big. It's also, I'm going to tell you the truth, it's really heavy. That's one of the reasons why I typically recommend those 10-gallon bins. This is just incredibly heavy to move around the basement or outside, and it's not something that's easy to use. Like, it's really low right now, but at one point I had it filled up almost to the top, and I mean, I couldn't move it at all. I just had to scoop stuff out of it with a shovel, and then I had to and then I was able to move it. So it's just not, it's really big. It's 27 gallons. When you get 27 gallons of dirt, essentially, it weighs a lot. You know, you're talking about over 100 pounds worth of stuff in here, and that's a lot for this type of bin to take. So I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see what you think. Give me your comments and let me know what you think of this type of bin. Thank you.